I've interviewed the forensic pathologist that was at the autopsy, the one that his brother hired, who I've done a lot of work with in my previous reporting about. I covered Florida prisons for many, many years, so I know the way that deaths happen in prison, deaths as in murders happen in prison. And he has quite a lot of experience in those kinds of cases too, and he doesn't believe.
Elon Musk has done it again. Another Epstein bombshell being dropped on Donald Trump at the worst possible time. And much like the first bombshell in which Elon told us emphatically that Trump is in the Epstein files, this latest admission on Twitter is no different. It is something that we have known all along. But it is incredibly damning, coming from someone who had so much access to so much information in this administration. We are going to get into it all, and why Donald Trump is losing his mind. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, Donald Trump right now is in a state of all-out panic over the Epstein files, because he knows he can't get this issue to go away. And I think one of the easiest ways to see why Donald Trump is so scared is to look at the massive size of the files to be released with new reporting right here, which colors why Elon's bombshell was so bad. 5 million more pages of Epstein files need reviewing. It is now thought that there are around 5.2 million documents in the Epstein files. 5 times the initial estimate. The government has already missed the deadline to release them after a new law required their turnover on December 19th. Now, around 400 extra lawyers are being sucked in to help wade through the mammoth task as the government seeks to make ground on the deficit. Only around 100,000 files were released on the day of the deadline. At that point, authorities said there were about 1 million more documents that needed review. But according to the New York Times, the new figure of 5.2 million is now considered more accurate. 200 lawyers from the National Security Division had already been pulled in for the project, but they're now being told more help is needed. So I want to get into what this all means for Donald Trump's Epstein scandal. And of course, how Elon Musk's latest bombshell relates to all this and makes it so much worse. But let's talk about the fact that 200 lawyers from the National Security Division of our government are being pulled out of their actual important work to help Donald Trump cover up his best pedo friend's crimes and his crimes. That on its own is crazy, but it also leads me to think something that I've thought all along, that what Donald Trump has been caught doing, saying the people that he associates with that are his best buddies, all that information in the Epstein files, that's just the tip of the iceberg. It is something that's already disqualifying from public life what could possibly be coming next. And to me, if you watch the show regularly, it has to do, in my opinion, and I think it's not a wrong thing to think with what happened in Donald Trump's first administration, which one of the closest reporters to this entire Epstein cover-up actually made some important insight and gave some important thoughts on. And it really relates to what happened with Elon. So I think we just got to check out what she had to say.
So incredibly slipshod that you have to wonder if they really were already convinced it was a suicide in their minds. So there was no need to investigate the possibility of anything else. And I've interviewed the forensic pathologist that was at the autopsy, the one that his brother hired, who I've done a lot of work with in my previous reporting about. I covered Florida prisons for many, many years, so I know the way that deaths happen in prison, deaths as in murders happen in prison. And he has quite a lot of experience in those kinds of cases too, and he doesn't believe a lot of reasons that it was a suicide. And I actually don't believe it was a suicide because it was too soon for, I think, Epstein to give up. He had been only in jail for a month, and he had a good chance of, I think he had a shot anyway at getting out, because the information that the SDNY had at that time were from victims in Florida, and his lawyers were going to argue that they would have been covered by that immunity deal that he made in Florida. So right. They had a good platform there to start with to get him off. He was also, right before his arrest, talking to Bannon and to other people about how to kind of smooth this story over, that I had written to sort of make it. At one point, I think they were trying to figure out a way to discredit me. He had been through this ammo, stuff before, hiring private investigators and, really digging into people. So, I just think that it was too soon for him to just throw in the towel.
I've been saying this all along. I think that the information we're about to be getting has a lot more to do with the cover-up in Donald Trump's first administration. I think that we need to take stock of how deep this goes. Donald Trump wants us to believe that maybe he was just palming around with Epstein, and that's it. And right, that's kind of how the DOJ wants to spin this, is that they bumped into each other. But it's much deeper. It is Donald Trump's involvement in the criminal organization, the cabal that Epstein was running. And it's certainly his crimes as it relates to his disgusting behavior towards children. And that is what Elon Musk admitted with his XAI on Twitter. And people are taking note. The Twitter account Newswire posted Elon Musk's Grok with this image. A Twitter account wrote, "Hey, Grok removed the pedophile with a photo of Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. And all that's left, as you can see, is Xi Jinping with no Donald Trump. So Grok hears pedophile and takes away Donald Trump. And if there's one thing we know about Elon Musk's XAI, is that he controls it in practice. Mr. Musk, as the New York Times reports, and his artificial intelligence company have tweaked the chatbot to make its answers more conservative on many issues. According to an analysis of thousands of its responses by the New York Times, the shifts appear in some cases to reflect Mr. Musk's political priorities. So Elon Musk owned AI chatbot on Twitter Grok through his company. Xi is admitting that Donald Trump is a pedo. That's what's coming out. And I want to get into that. But I also just want to state the fact that Elon Musk having a giant AI company that he uses to shape political discourse through skewed information of a technology that already needs massive regulation, which the government has refused to do. And in fact, going so far as to sue states that want to regulate AI, shows you everything you need to know about how conservatives actually view speech and facts, and how they hate those things. They hate free speech. They hate factual information, which is why they've hated this Epstein cover-up, because every single piece of information and evidence that comes out makes it a lot more difficult for them to push conspiracies that they used to love when they were all about feelings and pizza parlors and nonsense. Let me say it again. The fact that Elon Musk, a man worth $750 billion, which is embarrassing that we have someone worth $750 billion in this country, has decided that he is going to make his AI chatbot, right? Which is supposedly in many people's eyes, and I'm not a big fan of AI. I try to use it as little as possible, if not at all. If he is tweaking it to sound more conservative, to be more conservative against how the model was trained to be factual, and respond with real information, credible evidence, cite, sources reports. If Elon is doing that, it's a couple of things. First, it's an admission that the conservative, facts over feelings, is never been real. These people are so invested in their feelings. It's all they care about. They can't make credible logical arguments. But two, Elon Musk is doing the one thing that he promised when he was buying Twitter, which is suppressing speech. He's suppressing speech that is factual. He also tweaks his algorithm to make sure that whatever is said on Twitter is beneficial to him. And usually, of course, that means beneficial to Donald Trump. But not in this case. An AI that Elon tweaked so much that it was calling itself Mecha Hitler is admitting that Donald Trump is a pedo. Elon Musk went so far to push his AI chatbot to the right, to disregard facts and logic and reasons and anything, that this thing, it is even in that state, a state in which it will call itself Mecha Hitler. It's admitting that Donald Trump is a pedo. Someone pointed this out a while ago. When Donald Trump was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, he publicly called himself a Democrat. So, it's like, sure, Donald, you can say that it was just Democrats, but you, at the time, you said you were a Democrat. So, I don't know what that's about. I think that this 5.2 million documents again suggest what I've been saying so much. And I don't think it's conspiratorial. I know I always kind of, have that little qualifier at the beginning. I don't want to be conspiratorial. Don't want to be conspiratorial. I'm going to stop saying that at some point. I just don't want to be. But it's not. I think that if what has already come out in these Epstein files has already and always should and hasn't, but should disqualify Donald Trump from public life, this alone, what has come out in these Epstein files, what we have learned from new reporting, the existing evidence against Donald Trump should be disqualifying of being in public life. We know that as people with morals that ground us, right? We are not in a cult. Our brains are not mush. We are not political radicals and fanatics. We are normal people, and any normal person would see all this and say that is disqualifying of public life. Unfortunately, America is not filled with strictly normal people who aren't in the cult of Donald Trump. But if that information alone is disqualifying of Donald Trump being in public life, then what are they hiding, right? If the Epstein files in full were released, and this was all that came out, we would conclude by saying, this is the most devastating scandal in presidential history. The effort to cover this up was criminal. These people should be tried. And Donald Trump is clearly a pedo. But there's 5.2 million more documents, and they have to get 400 lawyers to review all this. They're paying overtime out the wazoo to the FBI. What else could be left? Well, we've heard a lot of anecdotal in a way to disqualify. But we've heard a lot of reporting, and we've seen a lot of evidence from Donald Trump's life with Epstein in the 90s, in the two. We are going to see more evidence about what Donald Trump was doing in his first term. Because what is clear to me is this idea that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and Donald Trump tried to push that there were no Epstein co-conspirators. And it was just Epstein trafficking these girls simply to himself was an effort to cover up one thing, but really two. The first thing was that this is a criminal cabal. They don't want you to think it's a criminal cabal. Why? Because, of course, that would make it a bigger story. But also, if it's a criminal cabal, there's more co-conspirators, and more co-conspirators who could share information about Donald Trump. But the second thing is, they don't want you to realize that Donald Trump was one of those co-conspirators. He wasn't just hanging out. He was a part of this operation. And if he was a part of this operation, then it goes much deeper. And if he was a part of this operation, he's going to want to silence a lot of people. And I think that's what we're going to see happen in his first term. We are going to continue beating this drum. We are going to continue talking about this every single day. I promise you can count on that. We have been on the road a lot. I am fairly exhausted. I'm excited for the video I'm about to make about why I've been gone for a little bit. Some reflections, some thoughts on the new year, so much more. I really truly cannot say how grateful I am enough for this audience, for this community. There's so much I want to do in this new year, in 2026. There's so much I want to do differently to make this show better. I'm excited for us to figure out what that looks like. I love y'all. We have built something great. We are going to make it even better. We are going to hold these people accountable. We are going to ask the tough questions. We are going to make fun of Erica Kirk. It's gonna be a blast. Fuck you, Stephen Miller. Fuck you, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump. Kash Patel, you wear a youth medium. You are not a man. Not that, being small makes you not a man. But Kash Patel sucks. And his girlfriend's a misogynist. And we're gonna be talking about all those things on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let him silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.